Hi everyone! So as you can see, my moving boxes are out, which means, yep, it's that time of year again where we're moving house and having to pack up all the books, which is not fun, but that's alright. Last year, I really wanted to run through some of my favorite books that I had read during the year, and I just ran out of time. So I thought I would do that now and run through which were my favorites for 2017. I'm sorry, I've got cats all over the place. They're very distracting. Are you too good? This is actually the reason why I need to move really fast. My girls think that this is Christmas. If you've seen any of my Insta stories, you will see, especially Kindle loves cardboard boxes. She loves to shred them, not just jump in them. She likes to just pull the whole thing apart. So I'm having to move really quickly and then just shut this door and keep this all closed up for them. I've got a cardboard box to the side of me where it's already being chewed through. So yeah, we're gonna have to move fast. All right, so before I start, I do want to say I actually feel kind of silly doing this because I'm not an analytical person, but I have read some really good books, so I really did want to share it. So don't judge me on my book reviews. All right, so first book is Lockwood & Co. It's actually a series. This book is The Empty Grave, and this is the final book in the series that came out this year. I started reading this last year, and this is where I always say, you know, please share what you're reading and what you're absolutely loving, because I loved the Lockwood & Co. series and it was something that was recommended to me. Okay, so I'm going to quickly jump on to Wikipedia here. So the Lockwood & Co. series revolves around Lucy Carlyle as she joins the charming Anthony Lockwood and George Cubbins to investigate the hauntings across London. So basically it is because they are underage, they can see ghosts and spectrals. And basically once you become an adult, it's harder to see those things. So Lockwood & Co. is basically a ghost hunting agency, and this follows their adventures basically hunting ghosts. Now I have to say, my favorite thing about this series, people always say, you know, like, oh, what were your favorite like relationships or friendships and whatever. My favorite was the Skull and Lucy. That Skull was the most sarcastic little snot, and it totally made the entire series. It was so fantastic. I will say, don't hold this against the book. It is a middle grade reading level. So if you see that, don't judge it. I actually found this was better than a lot of YA books. This was brilliantly written, and I loved the stories and whatever. So there you go. First series that I would recommend is Lockwood & Co. Okay, so the next series that I need to talk about is the one by, I'm sorry, I actually don't know how to pronounce the last name, Carrie Maniscalco. I really hope that's how you pronounce it. Anyways, I think the first book came out was last year, but I read this one in June, July. Stalking Jack the Ripper. YA series. Absolutely loved this one. Just FYI, I love actually anything murders and thrillers. So this, and I love Victorian era, so this was just perfect. And her idea behind Jack the Ripper was believable. I think that's always the hard part when it comes to mysteries that haven't been solved, is either they do such a crazy spin on it, or they kind of just choose something that's already been done before and you kind of go, yeah, and? This one, she's created her own story behind it, and fantastic. So after reading this one, I was just like, oh, can't wait to read the next. Which the next one was Hunting Prince Dracula, which came out this year. I enjoyed it, but unfortunately my favorite book is The Historian, which is another Dracula book. And because that was so in-depth and detailed, this one was a bit like, which fair enough, it's kind of like the teenage sister version. I didn't really, I found the ending a little too far-fetched. It didn't quite fit with me being able to believe it as much. But in saying that, I still love her writing style, so I still enjoyed reading the book. She's also coming out with a third one, not sure when, but based on the end of the story, they are heading to America. So hopefully there is going to be another story to solve, another mystery to solve. So I am really looking forward to her third book, but if you haven't read something like The Historian before, or you haven't really read many Dracula books, you will really probably enjoy Hunting Prince Dracula, and by all means, definitely read Stalking Jack the Ripper. That was brilliant. I seem to be reading YA series this year. Final YA series on this list, before I get into my mysteries and thrillers, were the Lunar chronicles, which I obviously don't have all the books here, but here's a few. Like last year and the year before and whatever, you would have seen it all across Instagram. Everyone was reading it. I really put it off because I was a bit like, oh, they're pretty covers and stuff. But you know, sometimes when you see a book and you're just like, oh, I'm just not ready to read it yet. Once I actually picked it up though, I was like, why did I not read this sooner? It was actually really good. They've basically taken fairy tales and she's spun it into this whole cyborg sort of outer space sci-fi sort of series thing. And it works. Like, it was really quite clever. And you know your fairy tales, but it's not that you necessarily knew what the endings were going to be. And because she's actually incorporated all these different fairy tales and they all interact with each other, it was really cool. It was, see, there's me trying to do an analysis of the book. It was cool. But yeah, no, look, if you're looking for another YA series and you had seen these and you weren't really sure, if you're like one of the very few, like me, who hadn't read it, the Lunar Chronicles are well worth picking up. I still haven't read, is it Fairest? I think that's one that's on the list. But I read the sort of main series. I think it was 4 books, something like that. Anyways, just a quick wrap up of that one. Yes, well worth buying and reading. Okay, so let's get on to crime, mysteries, thrillers, and so on. I've read some really good books and I've read some absolute doozies. So top of my list for this year has got to be Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Caine. It was brilliant. She's actually, thank gosh, got a second book coming out in the series December, I think it's December 12th. And I think it's called Kilman Creek, I think it is. It was a brilliant book. Like, you know when you've read like mysteries and you're just like, yeah, it was okay, or it just flowed perfectly. You were kept guessing till the end, and yeah, it is, I don't know how to describe it any better than, you know, when you're looking for that next really good mystery book, this one's it. So I am really looking forward to Kilman Creek because it is a follow-on, because this book actually leaves you on with a cliffhanger, and this is basically a follow-on to the story as well. So if that one is as well written as what this is, you're also going to want to pick up that one straight after reading this. Okay, what's the next one? Okay, this is another one you really need to read. Claire McIntosh. So she has written 2 books, and I will say, when I was reading the reviews, they kind of said, some people would say, I loved the first book, but I didn't love the second one. Or people would go, I love the second one, but I couldn't get into the first one. And I have to say, I was the same, although my reasons might have been different. The book I absolutely loved was I See You. So again, another mystery book. All right, so this one is, how do we summarize it? A woman sees herself in a classified ad, and then she starts recognizing that other women, she keeps checking for the classifieds to see if she shows up again, but she sees other women in the classifieds. But then she starts to recognize those women in articles, so that violent crimes have happened to them, so rape, murder, and so on. So between herself and a cop, they're trying to figure out, you know, who's behind it and whatever, but also she's thinking, because she's been in the classified, that she's next. So it's sort of like this whole paranoid thing or whatever, but really brilliant. I loved the whole idea of, yeah, like the whole stalking idea. It was well done. So the other book she has written was I Let You Go, and that one was really good. In some cases I found that one, yeah, it was probably a bit more believable, and that's sort of like something that people have sort of said in reviews. They kind of struggled to get their head around the idea of ICU and the end sort of result of who it was and so on. I Let You Go was really well written and, yeah, really believable. You suddenly understood, it was easier to understand. My problem is I can't stand stories that are about domestic violence and so on. It doesn't matter how well written the books are. Unfortunately, that's my one thing where I'm like, I can't enjoy this. It's just too upsetting. So if you don't mind that, I Let You Go is another really good one. They're different concepts, her two stories. You know, sometimes people have sort of a style between the writing. These are two very different storylines, so you can't guess one after reading the other or whatever, which was good. But yeah, if you're wanting another author, I would say Claire McIntosh, and I'm crossing my fingers that she's going to come out with another one soon. Ooh, if you are into historical fiction, the book you need to read is America's First Daughter. Loved that one. I actually gave that one 5 stars. That is the untold story of Thomas Jefferson's eldest daughter, Martha. And basically it sort of follows her story. I think they took as much as they could, but it's one of those things where they've really brought someone to life. Whether it's the correct version or not is up to you to decide, I guess, in a sense. But if you love historical fiction, I would definitely add that one to your reading list. So I'm not sure how many other books you guys really want me to cover. Those were sort of my top highlight books where I think back and go, that was really good reading. I'll quickly just squiz through some of the other books I've read this year that I either really enjoyed, or I'll even talk about some of the ones I didn't. Dan Brown, who did the Da Vinci Code, came out with Origin. I always like his books. They make you think. And while I don't normally like to think, I like to normally just read and enjoy. He writes books in a way where, you know, it gets you thinking, but it's kind of putting the thoughts into your head, so you're not having to take it over too much. But I found it an interesting book. What else have I read? Tess Gerritsen came out with another Rizzoli Isles book. If anyone is a fan of that series, I devoured all of her books last year. That was like the series I read. I actually didn't realize that it was a TV show as well until I think the end of last year, and then I just like raced through all of that. Of course, the series was already finished. That is the type of person I am. I will, like, a whole TV series will be out and I'll be like, wait, what? This is like the most brilliant thing. And people are like, yeah, that was so 5 years ago. But yes, she came out with I Know a Secret. Few books I read that are on either the top sellers list and even voted as some of the better books for this year that I actually didn't really enjoy, but like it was okay, was The Sleepwalker. There was My Husband's Wife. Again, that was all right. Into the Water, yeah. My absolute no was The Girl Before, and that's actually been rated as one of the top books for this year, and I'm like, I think that's pretty much it for a summary. This was not my big reading year. I always use Goodreads to kind of keep track of everything I'm reading or whatever, and I think I had a goal of reading 1 book a week, and that just so did not happen. But that's okay. I knew it was going to be one of those years. If you guys have any book suggestions that you think I have missed and would love to read, please let me know. Or even if you aren't really sure, just something that you have loved reading, let me know. As you can see, my range from historical fiction to mysteries to YA to middle grade. I've also been rereading books like Harriet the Spy and Judy Blume books and so on this year. So I'm trying to get some ideas. Those ones are more for recipes for next year. I've got a few things coming up. I am not really going to be putting out too much the rest of this year. Obviously moving, and I've got some stuff coming up which I will share with you hopefully in another few videos. But stay tuned for next year. I have got lots of ideas, and especially ones I wasn't able to do this year, they will be happening next year. Anyways, with that, I hope you enjoy that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! So, as you can know, Kindle, please be careful. Yeah, I love you dearly, and I know you really want to help. My cat's trying to help me film.